A very warm welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12. I'm Ritwika Gupta. Tonight, as part of our year-enders, we have a very special conversation lined up with a fearless entrepreneur, investor and recently turned author with multiple passions and interests. On the show tonight, I'll be in conversation with Sunil Kant Munjal, Chairman Hero Enterprise. I caught up with him on the sidelines of BML Mual Awards and he spoke to me about the role of human capital in India's entrepreneurial landscape. Listen in. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Munjal, for joining us today on ET Now, Leaders of Tomorrow.
Thank you.
Now, you've had an illustrious journey as an entrepreneur and a business leader. So how would you define leadership in today's dynamic world? And what is your personal philosophy when it comes to entrepreneurship?
Well, some bits of leadership are actually timeless. The ability of people to weave and express a story which compels people to accompany them, to take risks with them. But in today's world, the one thing that has changed is the uncertainty of life has become absolutely dramatically higher. We have seen through incidents of wars, of strife, of COVID, of political changes, the world has become a much more uncertain place. And also because the world itself is pulling apart in so many different ways because of the geopolitics, because of the way trade and business has been done across the globe, the role of business leaders now has become a lot more requirement to be adaptable, to be able to change literally and spin around on a coin, to change your plans, to change your strategy. And I think that flexibility has become a key requirement in addition to all the other standard requirements that we did always have for leadership.
Now, sir, how do you see the current landscape for entrepreneurs in India? What are some of the biggest opportunities you think they should focus on?
So India is actually in a very unique place right now. Both the impression of India and Indians the world over has actually improved quite significantly over the last decade or so. And that has opened up a whole host of opportunities. One, because of the work we are doing inside India, which is building physical infrastructure and building digital infrastructure at one time. By the way, this is something that has never been done in the world earlier. And also because of our interesting demographics, we have a large young population and a very favorable dependency ratio. And dependency ratio, as you know, is the ratio of people in the working age group to the very young and the very old. So this opens up a whole host of opportunities which did not exist earlier. So one, India becoming part of the global mainstream makes us part of global value chains. Second, the use of technology in the way India has adapted and distributed technology and access to technology across the country, it has opened up tremendous opportunities. And at the same time, a stated position of India to grow manufacturing as a business, because services has done exceedingly well for India for a long time now. The attempt to grow manufacturing, I think, will add very significantly to where India goes in the future. At the same time, we have two interesting geographical opportunities. One, where urban landscapes, cities as economic centers and urban agglomeration of economic centers will become a reality. Second is developing a post-harvest and a non-agri economy in the rural areas will be another wonderful opportunity. So actually the opportunities are tremendous. A $3.7 trillion economy, which wants to be a $7.3 trillion economy by the end of the decade, and then a $30 trillion economy by 1947. The maths is very simple. there are more opportunities today in India than there are almost in any other part of the world.
The BML Mual Awards recognize the transformative impact of innovative talent development initiatives. Sir, could you share how these awards have helped reshape industry perceptions of learning and development as a key business driver?
So these awards started off in 2006, and the idea was to look around. When we looked around, we saw there were many companies getting recognized, companies with great revenues, great exports, great profitability. But very rarely did companies get recognized who had focused on people as a strategy and whose business therefore had benefited from this. So it's not only about a training, by the way, I must expand the answer. It is much more about companies' leadership. So this is not an award for an HR department. It's not an award for a training department. This is an award for the chairman or a CEO of a company who builds a strategy along with the board to say, our big focus will be people, which is both people inside the company and how we deal with communities that we deal with, our suppliers, our customers, our consumers, our distributors. So this is talking about people focus and the benefit of companies. So this actually, in the first few years when we started, we had to actually invite companies to come in and pitch.
Sure.
It took a little bit of effort to even explain why we are focusing on this area. But now this is a much coveted award with some of the top blue chip companies in India who constantly and annually make a pitch for these awards.
So in your view, what role does a strong focus on human capital play in building resilient and future-ready organizations?
So this is a good question because no matter what we do in an organization, we can use the best technologies in the world, as many companies do, as we do in our companies. You can build the best buildings, you can build fantastic factories or offices, commercial centers, but eventually it is all about people. They are the drivers of all of this. They will make the difference and the distinction between a good company and an outstanding company, between a good entity to deal with and an amazing partner for the long term. So therefore, the people policies that we look for is not only the upgradation of their skills, but also of attitude, of soft skills, of communication. So these are companies where you feel more at home when you deal with them. And these companies, therefore, ensure a much higher possibility of success for themselves. As we go forward, the uncertainty in the world is increasing. The use of technology and exposure to technology is increasing. Therefore, the big distinction will actually come from people. I've often said that every other asset that we use in our companies is depreciating. The only one appreciating is the people that we have through experience, exposure, and also through making mistakes. These people actually get better at what they do. And therefore, that is an appreciating asset. And therefore, also the anchor of anything and everything that the company does.
Right.
And the feature which distinguishes one company from another in how it's seen and perceived by the community and the businesses that it deals with.
So, sir, you've often spoken about the importance of nurturing talent. Could you elaborate on how investing in people drives innovation and long-term business success?
So, as I just said, technology today has become an integral part of any enterprise, any business, any company, any country, any governance of any institution has to adopt and adapt to technology on an ongoing basis and a constantly changing technological landscape. So that bit now has become part given and part confusion because every 6 months, every 1 year, every 2 years, the technology changes almost completely.
Absolutely.
If you have skilled and trained your people to adapt to change, if people have the right attitude and don't get shaken up each time the environment around them changes, those companies have the ability to be successful, quarter after quarter, year after year, and also decade after decade.
Right.
And which is why more and more leaders are now saying that, in fact, what we are attempting, and when we provide training programs, we do 2 or 3 things. One is we try and appeal both to the right and the left brain at one time. So we're looking at people's methodical side and the creative side at the same time, for them to be able to make decisions no matter what the environment, no matter what changes take place. Therefore, it becomes an integral part of a good organization's capability building, is ensuring that people are trained not just skilled in the role in the job that they do, but also in how to deal with people, how to deal with the ecosystem, how to deal with the environment, how to be forward-looking, how to focus on the future and fold in the future into your thinking today. Because long-term future in today's world is almost impossible to predict. But the changes that are likely to take place in the immediate and the medium-term future, the smarter companies have begun to fold them into their current annual plans. And I think that is the big difference and distinction between companies that focus on people as their big strength,
sure,
as against other companies.
It's time for a quick break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12. In conversation tonight with Sunil Kant Munjal, Chairman, Hero Enterprise. In this segment, we touch on the role of technology and what it would take for Indian entrepreneurs to go global. Listen in. Now, as far as startups and MSMEs are concerned, as India's entrepreneurial ecosystem evolves, how do you see skill development and continuous learning shaping the success of emerging businesses?
Well, the startups and small and medium companies are the backbone and the big strength of any economy, of any nation, of any industry, as they are in India. While the large companies provide branding, research, distribution, production ideas, it is actually their associate companies, which are usually the MSMEs, which will provide the rest of the value add. Therefore, first, this has to be a symbiotic relationship between all of them.
Right.
And therefore, when I'm talking about the skilling and training of the large companies, it becomes equally, if not more important, for the smaller companies to learn to adapt to this as well, because their effectiveness impacts the business of the large companies and the collective business of India overall as an economy. As far as the startups are concerned, we as a nation are at a very interesting place right now. We are the third largest startup ecosystem in the world, as is well understood and established now. And we have spread the startups across the country. It's no longer a phenomenon only in a few big cities or only in Bangalore or in NCR region. It is now happening in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. It's happening in many of the villages in India.
Absolutely.
And it's happening on tech-based companies and completely non-tech-based companies as well. And I think this is a fantastic and a phenomenal change that has taken place in India, is the entrepreneurial spirit of individuals, both young and not so young, both men and women, has got awakened. And this with the government's policy making, the kind of policy that got announced by the Prime Minister himself, Startup India, Stand Up India, support given to early stage businesses, I think has helped to create an ecosystem
sure,
where we will see many, many more ideas get to fruition of actual product and services. But as is the nature of this industry, we will also see many failures, which is why the people training, skilling, and mental preparation, their philosophical training is very critical, that they're able to adapt to the changes that take place. They're able to absorb the shocks that they get, that they can understand and accept failure. One of our big weaknesses as a people, as a culture, has been that we very rarely accepted failure in one's people, institutions, states, countries, or anybody.
Right.
And as an essential feature of the success that one would like to see in the startup ecosystem is not just the acceptance, but the actual celebration of failure. So that people who've tried something and found that it did not work, when they come back, they are better equipped than others to be able to find success because they know what not to do. And I think that's an essential part. And the second part is to impart things like good governance that focus on integrity, good behavior, kindness, dealing with people, dealing with communities less fortunate than you. I think all of this is an essential part. And startups have a unique feature that they grow very rapidly. If you're not people focused, you can trip and fall very easily when you try and grow fast and quickly. Therefore, it is not just about the technology, which is often the backbone of startups, but eventually it's about the people who are building the business and the people who are building the business for that actually decides and defines the long-term success of these early stage companies.
Sure. Now, sir, you also spoke about the role of technology, and indeed innovation and technology are driving forces in today's economy. But how do you see emerging technologies like AI enabling progress and contributing to sustainable growth?
The changes taking place due to technologies like generative AI are going to change the rules of the game itself, which is why we hear all of this debate across the globe about ethical use of technology, the correct use of technology, putting guardrails around generative AI, etc., technologies of that nature, which will have the ability to automate themselves.
Fantastic.
To work in a manner where they guide and drive themselves. So which is why it is important that in the early stages, which is now, we put the right systems in place to ensure long-term success, that technology continues to be a tool that is available to us, and we drive technology rather than get driven by technology. So technology, like anything else, is a dual-edged sword. It can be used to do a lot of good, but at the same time, it generates a lot of mischief.
Absolutely.
Which is why things like cybersecurity, things like watchfulness against getting hacked, getting phished. So all of these are tools that are available to the mischief maker as well. So we, the users of technology, have to be aware, conscious, and that's why the tech companies, regulators, even the government is putting out advertisement on TV and newspaper and magazines, telling us to be careful and watchful about how we share information, what platforms you use, what tools you use, and how you actually adapt yourselves to a culture where safety and security is an integral part of how you operate.
Right.
I think we are at the cusp of dramatic changes that will take place in the future, and we are uniquely positioned to take full advantage of that as a country which is amongst the free, which has got one of the few that has got high growth in the world today, a country which wants to be counted amongst the leading countries in the world, a country which wants to do it in partnership with others. So therefore, technology for us is a perfect enabler right now. So I think we are well poised at this moment, especially because India today has more than 1 billion, digital identities, more than 1 billion phone connections, more than 1 billion bank accounts. So all of this makes for a wonderful combination to use technology, one, for improving everyday life, two, for improving businesses, and three, for providing wonderful governance tools, including public access to infrastructure that is digital and driven by technology to improve transparency, to improve effectiveness, and to improve timeliness. So we are, I think, at a point where technology will change many things over the coming decades.
Right, and finally, as we are wrapping this interview, tell us what advice would you give to the next generation of entrepreneurs? Because Hero Enterprise stands as a testament to Dr. Munjal's visionary legacy. So how can Indian entrepreneurs and organizations uphold and integrate such values to cultivate innovation and leadership, especially as India positions itself as a leading global economy?
Entrepreneurs have a very important role in society, much beyond their business. Because the way businesses are structured the world over, their reach is beyond their own physical self. they deal with suppliers, they deal with customers, they deal with communities, they deal with people who are employees within the company. So in each one, as you expand their own families, friends, colleagues, the universe is actually quite large. Therefore, the government and the public system has been asking business to play a role beyond itself. Now, responsible companies have started doing it much earlier, focusing on communities, focusing on behavior, focusing on environment. In our organizations, and you rightfully mentioned my father, Dr. Ritwika Munjal's name, he actually drove this behavior not just in recent times, but 50, 60, 70 years ago, focusing on people as the most important component, ensuring that you do all of this with a underlying philosophy of ethics, integrity, good process, and high quality of governance. So all of these were combined to ensure that businesses are meaningful, that businesses do the right thing to be effective, to be productive, to be profitable, but at the same time, also provide high quality interface to communities to share their knowledge.
Right.
We also run multiple skill centers. We work with integrated development of villages. And our big initiative right now is in the area of arts and culture. Our foundation runs the Serendipity Arts Festival in Goa, which is actually starting next week from the 15th to the 22nd of December, which focuses on all kinds of arts and providing access to arts to the lay public, to everybody. And we try and do this in an experiential manner so that people take away a message home with them. So I think business has a unique opportunity and therefore a unique role in society to be able to make an impact and to be a force for good.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Munjal. Those were some impactful insights. Our viewers will surely have a lot to take away. Thank you for joining us, and it was wonderful chatting with you.
Thank you for inviting me here. Thank you.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.